it's almost like there's a raw energy, and it needs to be grounded, and it needs to be grounded in work somehow. You get a stirring, and sometimes you can't sleep at night. You really just have to write out your idea. I'll get an idea in the middle of the night and I can't sleep. Unfortunately, sometimes those ideas are far-fetching and large and grandiose, so you can't really get up and go and draw, because it's not a drawing, it's a sculpture, or it's an apartment building you want to build, or a great idea, but it's not a 2-second fix. What I've had to do is draw out the idea and then go to bed and then come back to it the next morning, but the idea has to come out. It's like an electrical current that is inside you that doesn't quite have, that its only outlet is an expression of sorts. So you can store it up, you can try and tap it and cap it and shut it off, but it won't happen. It'll only burst somewhere. I tried not to do artwork for a while. I went into insurance planning, and art always tended to interfere. It was like a war. They were at war. I was trying to do financial planning, and art was saying, no, you're not. So art won. I would say through art history you can't not know that cave people used earth pigments. You go to the paint store and you get iron oxide black, so you know it's from the earth, yellow ochre, nickel yellow. So you know that pigments were ground down before, but certainly this has been a lot of trial and error. I have a fascination with rocks. My mother said I was born with rocks in my pocket, so I think a natural affinity to the earth and to rocks itself has led to this. I was traveling in California, and I saw on a bank by the highway just two distinct colors side by side, just like a color field painting. And of course I yelled, "Stop! We have to go get some of that." And I had it for years, at least 3 years, just stored in a jar. And then one day I realized I could use this. Why not try? And I think that was the beginning of using rock dust and earth pigments directly from found samples. I mean, the modernists, Leger, looked at buildings, looked at the metropolis, the new. And I've always looked at the old. I remember one of my first paintings ever. I was in kindergarten, I was at school, and we had the little dissolvable tempera paints. So it was these buckets of color, sheet of paper, and I painted my neighbor, Mrs. Bridgman's roses. And so I was 5. And at that point, I realized that I wasn't actually painting them. I was painting a representation of them, that this represented this climbing roses. And that's a moment where I realized something was good, that I actually put the pieces of this visual puzzle together to represent something. And that's a hindsight view of it. I'm sure I just had fun at the moment, but I knew I put something together. I had made something, and I look back to that. One of the rewards that started coming is that even in a life of chaos or something, whatever was going on around me at the time, if I could just focus and draw, I made a good result on something. I created something of order. I created a world that's in my own, within this piece of paper, or within the canvas. It It was mine. It was mine to control, and I think late in my high school years, that's where I wanted to. It's where I felt I had a little bit of control. Yeah, I knew had a little talent and I was able to do it, but I think that's where my peace was. In grade 8, I got into an honors, grade 9, an honors art class. It was a special program at one of the schools, and I think getting into that was a huge emotional validation. I don't think anybody realized how much I wanted to be an artist at that point. Maybe even myself, but it was something that nobody was going to take away from me. It felt like my identity to seize, my right to grasp and to reach for. Why be alive if you can't pursue a dream? And I think I was young enough to feel that black and white about something. If you can't follow your dreams, why be around? What is the point? That's a little bit of youthful attitude, but I think it's almost more honest. So that happened 16, 17, and so I tried my best at that point to achieve it, to realize it. I didn't realize the extended learning period of time. A huge learning curve into realizing thinking harder about what it is that you're doing. You're not just putting colors together, you're not just doing a drawing. That's not quite good enough. You got to know why you're doing what you're doing. And at least have some real serious, thoughtful things to say in the end. Is the donut a donut? Or is it a symbol? How does this relate to society? How does this relate to the inner self? Does this relate to a spiritual passion? What are the big subjects behind even just the simple drawing? Are you drawing power? Are you drawing weakness? In early processes, I just tried to add paint to the pigment, and basically I made stucco. So that's why I wet canvas, wet the rock dust so that they're more familiar with each other, and they can live together a little bit easier. This is an acrylic and water solution. Basically, I want enough moisture to penetrate both the dirt and the canvas itself. And I want enough acrylic that it'll hold. I think repeating this process probably in smaller scales, making some finer choices. This is establishing a solid ground for all the other pigments to go on top of them. In total, I have about 12 pigments that I've collected so far, and that's basically been on 2 journeys into the mountains to find them. Some of the samples are like clay, and so you get it, and once they hit water, they dissolve incredibly well. Then it's almost like it cakes, instead of granules and showing a water path, like right here and here. It just wants to flood everywhere. Each pigment will behave differently, which is awesome. I just hope I'm not working with like uranium or something incredibly toxic. But so is aspartame. People drink it every day. I will go over top of it, and very likely with a mixture of different colors that I have, creating a composition. In '95 I started my fine arts degree. Things didn't quite work out that year and I ended up dropping it, but the most important thing is that when after my very first class, it was an art history class, I was absolutely certain I was in the right place. I felt alive. I thought, yes, I'm finally studying at a university level, at an adult level, something that I love a lot. And so I went from there. The year prepared me for what I really would need to do. I needed to change my life. I needed to change a few things, get a little more solid and stable, and then go back. And that's what I did. I took a year off. And so ever since then, it's been 3/4 full-time, a year off, 3/4 full-time, a year off, kind of a ratio, keep pushing at it. But it's something I never gave up on, and I easily could have at many, many different points. I had gone to school for so long that I think at certain times, depending if when you knew me, you'd probably think I was crazy, bizarre, maybe a little high-strung, too high-strung, a little bit hyper, a little bit erratic. I'm sure the fine arts tech probably wanted to kill me at a few times. It was do as much as you can all the time, as long as you can. Eat candy and keep going. For a few years there, it was do as much as you could for as long as you could. I remember falling asleep at school, and it was exploring. It was a great time. There were some great people that I went to school with, and I think there was a combined energy around 99, 2000 between third and fourth year students and some first year students. Everybody seemed to understand that this is about pursuing a passion. It was less political. It wasn't about certain people versus other people. It was everybody recognized that we were making artwork, and we were all growing and doing some great things. And I think that spirit, having that year and those people around, made me want to make sure that I did it for the rest of my life. Throughout my life, I've always had one really close friend, one or two, and those seem to be more real and more tangible. I can't talk about shopping. I need to talk about ideas, and so sometimes those friendships really foster those things. A friend of mine in Vancouver, we talk about art ideas all the time. It's pick up the phone or text, all of a sudden, I've got this great idea. And yeah, sometimes it's like all you have to need is that other confirmation. Yeah, I think it's a great idea. Did you think about this? And you realize you have someone out there that can understand what you were thinking about. And those strong, close relationships are really necessary. It's some of them that make you feel alive.